Howdy, folks, and welcome to another episode of Stanley and the Sea Can. So today we had some questions from the Peanut Gallery saying, what's in my setup? Like, what do I actually have to shoot? So the YouTube committee has decided for me that I'm going to show some of my personal stuff here instead of just business things. So I have a small something, and I like things that go very fast because of it, right? To compensate. So this is your standard 5.56 round or 223 Remington. I don't know if you can see that. And this is called a 22-250. So it's the same size projectile. This case here is actually a 62 grain soft point, and this is a 40 grain hollow point. So these are like absolutely fantastic for small varmints and things. Like you got the gophers bothering your horses or something like that. You can zap them with one of those, and you get a tremendous amount of gunpowder, and you can get up to over 4,000 feet per second. So essentially what that is a 308 casing. So here's a 308 or a 7.62 at 51 that's been necked down, and everything's steeper, like the angles everywhere are steeper, and necked down to 22 caliber. So you almost get the same amount of powder as a 308, but now you're only pushing a much smaller projectile, 40 grains versus something like 180 grains. So that gives you a really, really fast and flat shooting trajectory. So you don't have to worry about your drop and all that kind of stuff, because you're going at like 80% of a mile a second kind of thing. And then for the 30 caliber stuff, that's this gun. He is a 378 Weatherby. So it's kind of like the 22-250 of the 30 caliber world. So these are the same weight projectiles. Actually, I think this one's slightly smaller, but look at this massive size of the casing on that one, right? So it's like a 378 Weatherby Magnum neck down to 30 cal. And you can, depending on your loads and your projectile weights and various coatings you put on your projectiles, sabos and all those things, you can get them up to well over 4,000 feet per second as well. So basically shooting a 30 caliber projectile at 4,000 feet per second, and that's going to be very fast. And it doesn't violate the energy rules that we have in this country, because energy is mass times velocity squared. So even though we have the velocity squared, we have a light mass being accelerated, so it doesn't affect the geometry or the maximum energy. So yeah, that's kind of what I have. So this gun here is actually a Weatherby, I believe. It's a bolt gun, obviously. Missing the scope, must have been in for some work, and nice, smooth. Everything's been nicely lapped in, probably free floated. Super nice light trigger. And this guy here is based off of a Mauser. This is one of my favorites. Yeah, the scope's dirty, put some tape on it, but it's got a double set trigger. So this was started life as a 8mm Mauser bolt action, and then it had a new barrel put on. It's done 22-250, of course. And the kind of interesting thing about this particular firearm is if you pull the back trigger, it's the set trigger. So I can pull that, and you see the front trigger is moving. This firearm, by the way, is safe. Proved it safe well before the video started. And again, just to be sure, but you pull the back trigger, the front one moves, and it clicks. And now the front trigger takes almost no energy at all. Like you could just the weight of your finger touching it, and it goes off. So that's fantastic for sitting and waiting for some critters that are out there pretty far, like those prairie dogs at 700 yards or whatever, right? You can since you don't need any weight on the trigger to actually fire it, you don't have to worry about getting like the yips or anything, like pulling and the shaking like firearm and everything else. It just kind of just barely touch it, and she goes. This guy here is I don't know why I even have this, but it's just fun to have, so that's why I have it. I don't even know what you'd hunt with this. It seems like overkill for pretty much everything, except for some sort of big dangerous game. But where I'm at, this is nothing useful for this. Yeah, there's a couple of my my personal firearms. The downside to shooting something that's like crazy fast is their slang is the barrel burners. So the barrel erosion, specifically at the throat, which is in this area here, and the muzzle, which is in this area down here, they burn out much faster with these really high speed projectiles. So you can kind of envision this guy would be sitting something like that on the inside. So once this projectile leaves, the first little bit of rifling there has so much gas, so much pressure and everything that it causes high erosion there and there. Same thing on the end. The middles are usually pretty good. Another semi-interesting thing about this case is you can see here, it's not like a simple chamfer. It's like a bunch of radii that are going together. So this is kind of like a heavily modified design. This would never function reliably in a semi-auto or a full auto configuration. And it's mostly straight walled back here. So very, very subtle taper to it. But I believe the reason for this is so that it helps the powder burn. So it's kind of like everything kind of binds up in there, and then it helps the powder to burn fully from the back to the front and goes there. Whereas something like this, your standard 308, you've got everything is nicely tapered for self-loading firearms, and you're going to get some powder. More powder is going to blow out down the barrel and be wasted. So it'll give you like inconsistencies in your shot to shot. I think the first person who ever shot 10x at the Texas Mile was with one of these bad boys. I'm not sure if it was a Weatherby. It was probably a totally custom build, but it was this caliber anyway. So it has potential to go quite far and quite accurately do so. One of the advantages, again, of shooting really fast projectiles is the bullet. I'll use this guy. So if I'm standing here and I'm going to shoot at a target over here, gravity's a bitch, and it doesn't let us get away from it. So you always have to shoot like a ballistic. Well, it's a bit exaggerated, but you get the point, right? You shoot up, and then gravity pulls it back down to its target based on the time in which it's traveling there and gravity's acting on it. So something that's really fast, I can aim, maybe if I point at the top of this thing here, it's going to basically go and just fall a little bit. So it's not going to, you don't have to have such a high holdover on your shot. So it's far less sensitive to distance errors in calculating the distance. But yeah, so that's kind of an idea of why you'd want a fast projectile versus a slow projectile and everything else. Another interesting thing about this casing is it's a belted casing. So when you set the headspace on something like this, you're using some sort of like hypothetical point on this chamfer here, or this angle. And it's, there's all the math behind it. You can get the numbers off the internet and stuff. But these belted casings, they headspace off of this back piece here. So it's much easier to set. And then if the front it'll fire form to the chamber of your rifle. So you probably don't want to be using these in many different firearms, but at the same time, they're pretty expensive. These are probably, in today's market, $10 around or more in Canada for one of these cartridges. You're not going to go shooting pop cans and plinking with this thing. You're going to want to make it worth your time. But yeah, so that's just kind of a quick overview of a couple things that I have. So there's your 3378 versus a 308. So you can see it's a same size projectile, but very, very vastly different powder capacity, and kind of the same thing here. Not quite as extreme of a difference, but 5.56 223 and a 22 250. So it's kind of not quite a 308, but it's got a more powder capacity. You can really see it from the bottom. It's much bigger. It's like the length is almost the same, but the diameter of it is substantially bigger. So yeah, there's an awful lot more gunpowder in here to make them go real fast. Alrighty, thanks. And just like Grandma always says, if drama burned calories, you'd be a fitness model, boy.